Yeah. So Twyla, I was wondering as a therapist, and given that we have training in a particular frame, a particular schema, a way we practice, like you said, in the Western part of the world, what was it like for you as a therapist in India, learning about this other way of healing? What kind of shift, if it was a shift for you, was that?
Mhm. Yeah. So there's two things I want to share. So the first, I think, shift that happened was yoga's perspective is that we already have what we need inside in order to heal, grow, and actually to self-realize.
Are you looking for ways to improve your mental health outside of traditional talk therapy? Well, then stick around, because in this episode of the Mental Health Toolbox, we're talking all about how yoga therapy can improve your mental health with licensed therapist and yoga instructor Twyla Gingrich. So let's go. Twyla Gingrich holds space for women who identify as natural caretakers, helping professionals, or just love helping others to heal and grow from the inside out. She uses traditional yoga to help women develop honest and trusting relationships with themselves so they can support others without losing or compromising themselves. Twyla is the owner of Samya Yoga Healing, where she works with women through yoga-based counseling services, workshops, online courses, retreats, and one-on-one services. She is a mental health and substance abuse counselor, LCSW, and a yoga teacher, RYT 500. She is a meditation facilitator and a yoga student herself. Twyla has been supporting people from all walks of life for over 17 years. In 2010, when Twyla and her husband moved to Mumbai, India, for 2 years, she met her teacher, Prasad Rankar. This transformed the way she works with people. For Twyla, yoga is a holistic mind-body-spirit transformation modality and not just a physical practice. Yoga offers tools and techniques to get to the root of what keeps you stuck, rather than putting a band-aid over an issue. You can learn more about her work at samyayogahealing.com. All of the links and contact information will, of course, be in the description or show notes. All right, so let's go. Good morning, Twyla. Thank you so much for making time to be on the Mental Health Toolbox today and sharing your words of wisdom and nuggets of coping skills, right? And the special work that you do with women and yoga. And we're going to dive into all of that as you're sharing your experience and knowledge with our audience.
Thanks,
All right,
Patrick.
so
I'm
absolutely
psyched to be here.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. So why don't you go ahead and start us off by sharing with our audience a little bit about who you are and how you got into this work?
Yeah. So, so I have a private practice. I'm owner of Samya Yoga Healing, and I have been in this process of moving in towards private practice and working in Samya Yoga Healing for, it was probably about 5 years until I moved full time into it. Prior to that, I've done work in community mental health. I've also worked with adolescents in wilderness therapy. My background is in, I'm a licensed clinical social worker as well as a licensed addiction counselor. And then it was about 2010, I lived in India. I moved to India, my husband and I, for a couple years. There I met my yoga teacher, Prasad Rangnekar. And in that moment of meeting him, sent me on this other journey. I had been doing yoga on and off, since college. So for 20 years or so. And meeting him, getting this whole other perspective of yoga, I started on the personal journey of using yoga myself just to help manage anxiety and mood. So with my personal journey, it ended up, I brought it when I came back to the US in 2012, I started using it clinically with my clients. And I just found more and more that the perspective that yoga offers helps to have a deeper dive into ourselves and connect not only to mind and body, but also spirit, and creates lasting change. And so my personal journey melded with that professional journey led me to decide, this is what I want to do more and more. And I just felt like a better fit than coming specifically more from that medical Western model of mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so over probably the last, what has it been? Yeah, five or so years, 7 years. I've been working more and more in this realm of yoga-based counseling. So, yeah.
Wow, fascinating. Coming from somebody who knows very little to nothing about yoga, it's been on my bucket list, of course, like many other things, like learning to play the guitar, which I just started picking up.
I see that. Yeah, nice.
About
Congratulations.
This program for my daughter to learn the piano because she wanted to learn the piano, and so I bought this program and the piano, and then lasted all about 2 lessons. So now I have to I'm not going to waste my money. I'm going to learn.
Good.
But yeah, yoga is definitely on my bucket list with guitar and piano. But for you, did you get into yoga before your trip to India, or was that kind of the starting point for you?
Yeah, it was on kind of my bucket list as a teenager. And when I went to college at Lewis and Clark College, back in 1995, there was a yoga class. I was very excited. So I signed up for that. That was my first introduction to yoga. And I just on and off over the years kept coming back to it and had found it just helped to, I just felt calmer, grounded me more, just, it helped with that introspection, just noticing more and more, becoming more self-aware, I would say. And then, yeah, so, I had been around it for quite a while. And in fact, I'd previously been to India, and goodness, I think it was 2002. And when I was traveling there, I had an opportunity to work a little bit with a yoga student in Varanasi, India. And that was when I actually first learned that, oh my goodness, yoga isn't just something that you do on a yoga mat and you go to a yoga class. It was like this introduction to yoga as a lifestyle. And so when I got to go back in 2010, my teacher, Prasad, who I just happened to meet, he was teaching at some classes at the American school where my husband was working at. And he had his first yoga teacher training and invited me, and I went, and kind of that was like history. It was exactly what I needed for my own personal journey and being able, and I don't know about kind of healing, but getting to know myself better and learn how to manage anxiety and some other lifetime mood issues that I've had to deal with. And it's been, that's been more helpful than anything else. So my passion with that for myself led me to want to keep sharing it with others.
Wow. So you did not go to India with the specific purpose of learning yoga?
No. I was excited. I was like, thinking about, it'd be nice to go to some kind of retreat there, right? Because it's been part of my interest for a while. But that just kind of fell into place. So
nice. So you visited in 2002, but in 2010, you moved there? You lived there for a while, or what did that look like?
Yeah. I've been very lucky. I've gotten to travel a lot in my life, and my husband and I were living in Grand Junction, Colorado. I was at that point in community mental health. After about 2.5 years, I was feeling pretty burnt out and needing a break. And so I wanted to go and travel, and he felt more comfortable being able to find a job working abroad, teaching. He's a high school math teacher. And so that led us to be able to actually live in Mumbai, India for a couple of years. So, which is a amazing experience in his own, being able to live someplace versus just traveling. So.
Yeah. So you weren't estranged to the traveling lifestyle. I was going to say, because that's a big move.
Right.
Pick up your life and move to another country. Obviously, this was because of the work your husband was doing, right?
Right.
But
right.
also because you have, sounds like, a passion for traveling abroad.
Yes.
So,
yes, I do.
Nice.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a golden opportunity, I imagine. If that was, if you've had been looking forward to moving to India,
right,
visiting at least. Excellent. Yeah. Was that a hard adjustment for you? I mean, is the culture all that different? I mean, what is it?
I mean, the culture is very different, and I don't know. So India, what I have found, there's kind of almost like two types of people. Either you go to India and you fall in love with it, or you go to India and you're like, I'm out of here. It's because it's challenging in the sense that I kind of think of it as it's like a sensory experience. Every part, every sense is going to be stimulated there in ways that do not happen here in the U.S. For most people. And so, yeah, I don't know. I just feel at home there and I enjoyed it. The more challenging part is I grew up in Alaska, and Anchorage is where I grew up. And then I've been living in Colorado for most of my adult life. And so being connected to the outdoors and nature, that being pretty accessible, has been, this is kind of my comfort zone. It's something I really love and enjoy. So that I would say the most challenging part was, being in one of the largest cities in the world, and not having that readily available. That was probably the most challenging part. But other than that, it was just a wonderful experience. And I continue to go back to India. So.
Oh, fun. So it's a densely populated urban setting.
Yeah. Okay. It definitely is. So.
Yeah. I'm over in LA, kind of. I'm in greater LA. So it's, suburbs, but still, congested. And I know when I visited Utah, it's definitely nice. I have that open space feeling. So I've never been to Colorado, but I hear it's beautiful. So that makes sense.
Beautiful place.
Yeah. So Twyla, I was wondering, as a therapist, and given that we have training in a particular frame, a particular schema, a way we practice, like you said, in the Western part of the world, what was it like for you as a therapist in India, learning about this other way of healing? What kind of shift, if it was a shift for you, was that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's two things I want to share. So the first, I think, shift that happened was yoga's perspective is that we already have what we need inside in order to heal, grow, and actually to self-realize. I think that is very different than what we're taught. In the Western world, if there's more of this medical model of finding a diagnosis and treating that, and I have found that on one hand, it can be nice to know, like, okay, what's wrong with me, and go from there. But that's the thing, what's wrong with me? And the majority of mental health issues, and even what yoga would say suffering, is that there's nothing wrong with us. It's actually life's conditionings, experiences, patterns that are keeping us from truly connecting to our true self. So that is a huge shift. Mm-hmm. And then another just kind of aha moment that I had with how to even bring yoga a bit more into the therapy room. And what I mean by yoga is going beyond just postures, which most people think of as yoga. Was in my second yoga teacher training around 2015. My teacher was talking about pranayama, or the breath practice of manipulating the breath techniques. that to help calm the mind. And he talked about how the mind and the breath are like two sides of the same coin. And in that moment, I had this like, when I was thinking about my clients and even myself, of like, all right, I know when I'm feeling anxious that I'm not like, I could feel my diaphragm like contracting and being tense.
Right.
So I couldn't even get a full breath. But if by practicing some of these breath techniques that help calm that muscle and be able to get fuller, deeper breaths, and my mind would immediately calm down. So when bringing this into the, therapy room, I just found so many of my clients who would practice these breath techniques in their daily life. I mean, would have really quick, profound changes in how they were feeling and realizing, wow, I have more control over this and how I'm feeling and how I'm thinking than I thought. It's very empowering. So.
Yeah, I can imagine. I know I'm a big fan of deep breathing. As counselors, we talk a lot about breath work, box breathing and so forth, and controlled breathing. We have a lot of different terms for it, but we know it's good for anxiety.
Yes.
Right. But somehow I feel like that's just scratching the surface of what maybe like you learned in India and
yes,
learning yoga, that maybe there's a whole lot more to this than just
than just a technique,
right?
a breath technique.
Because that can sound sometimes simplistic, but as therapists, we know it's important and we encourage deep breathing a lot. But share with me kind of, what's under the surface there, in this kind of practice with yoga, because like you said, it's more than just body positions. There's something more going on here.
Yeah. Well, to me, there's yoga, and so I haven't even speak specifically. Some of the listeners may have heard of this text, and some maybe haven't. But there's something called the Patanjali Yoga Sutras, which is like a at least 2,500-year-old kind of how-to of one path of yoga called Raja Yoga, which is actually yoga for the mind. And I would even say Patanjali is one of the original cognitive behavioral therapists out there, because that's what it's all about. It's about the path of refining the mind, and the goal of yoga defined by the Yoga Sutras are complete cessation of thought waves or thought patterns. So complete calmness of the mind. And it's those kind of tools, techniques, practices are all about going inward and refining the state of mind. And a lot of it has to do with perception, so we were viewing the world, all of that, which is CBT, right? Behavioral therapy. But it does it at a way of like really, again, coming to the goal of complete cessation of all thought waves. And yoga means then complete realization of self, of who we truly are. And so from the Yoga Sutra perspective, suffering in our lives comes from ignorance of who we really are. So mistaking who we are in a way that most of us think of us like, well, I'm my body, or I'm these thoughts, or I'm these emotions, or I'm my job, or I'm these things I like. And from the Yoga Sutra perception, all those things are impermanent, right? They all change. And so because they change, they're not who we truly are.
Wow. That makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah. And so this process of Raja Yoga, this type of yoga, path of yoga, is to over time, like this is not something that, oh yeah, I'm going to do this in a year and I'm going to realize my true self. This is a lifestyle and lifetime practice of slowly discerning who I'm not, like, and to move more towards who I am. And to me, that's a very much a deeper dive into the essence of who we are, and what may be causing us suffering, versus only looking at symptoms and just treating kind of symptoms instead of really getting at what I truly think is the root of it all. Yeah. So, so that's where
sounds like some deep narrative therapy kind of work.
Yes. So it's a much
Right.
different way of looking at things. And I spend a lot of time like working with people on this, again, shifting belief systems of really, like, being aware of what they're saying, being aware of what you're thinking, and questioning it, getting curious instead of taking it as, oh, this is truth. Like, questioning and getting curious about our own reactions and what's happening, going more and more inward. To feel empowered, because that's what we can control. We cannot control anything else.
So this would involve, I imagine, on your part, a lot of Socratic questioning for the client, patient, student, right? And then what percentage would you say is, if we want to frame it that way, talk therapy versus, I'm guessing, a guided meditation versus like skill-based training of the yoga?
Yeah. I mean, as a connect,
I'm just trying to imagine as a clinician, like I imagine there's a little bit of all of that going on. Right?
Yes. It's all of it. I would say all of that happens in almost every session that I work, with clients that I work with, especially in the beginning, because I'm introducing a lot of different new ways of thinking. They're sharing stuff, but they're sharing their experiences, and then I bring it back to these different concepts, and get them to kind of pause and think about that. And then the big thing is, this, like, when we're meeting with someone, like, once a week or every other week, whatever that is, it's 1 hour. And so one of my expectations is, like, if you're working with me, you're going to be practicing these things and doing them at home. Otherwise, like, there's not going to be change unless that happens. And so it's practicing things in session, having them go out and practice them at home, coming back, talking about it, refining the skills, and continuing to dive deeper into themselves as they're getting curious and questioning themselves too. So I should say another aspect I do bring in from my Western training is Emdr Therapy.
Okay.
Because I feel like that modality fits exactly with what I'm doing and with yoga, because it's learning how to pause and notice and watch what's happening and arising in the mind, the body, in the emotions, and in order to move through that, and again, find a different way of looking at these situations and letting stuff move through instead of us clamping down on it. So I do that with everyone. Like, traditionally, it started out EMDR with using with people with trauma, PTSD. And over the decades it's been around, there's a lot more different usages of it at this point. And I find that because we're alive, we have had distressing events, whether it's big T or little t trauma. And so, so it just helps to reaffirm what I'm doing, continue
absolutely, the validation that, this, because when you're in it every day, sometimes it can feel repetitive, right?
Yeah.
On our part, but at the same time, it's reassuring to know that, this is not a new, wet behind the ears kind of skill set. This type of work has been practiced for eons, right? And I get validated by that. I'm a big audiobook addict, podcast addict. I like autobiographies and history. And whenever I read books, I think the one like Napoleon Hill, for example, when I read, his kind of work, it reminds me that every single self-help book that I've read since that was published, and his books in like 1937, it's so repetitive,
Yes.
but not in a bad way, in a validating way, that the self-help, personal development space, because human behavior doesn't change and our genetics don't really change, or the way we think and operate and commune with our peers, right? And try and, play well in a village kind of mindset. The rules don't really change. Sometimes the context changes a little bit, but not how we operate within it.
Right. Well, and that's the interesting thing. Again, so Patanjali Yoga Sutras, they're 2,500 years old, at least, most likely older, because there was the oral tradition before it was written. And it's just as relevant today as it was back then. It's fascinating in that way. It's
fascinating and reassuring.
Yeah. And reassuring. Yeah. Oh, wait, it's not this rocket science. This is actually part of just being human.
Yeah. And I think too, when I'm going through stuff, it helps me remember that what I'm experiencing is not unique to me. And in some ways it is in context, but not in my human experience.
Right. We're all much
other people
more
were
similar.
able to figure out how to thrive in spite of, difficulties, then I can too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Other people can learn to recreate their story or create a new story and a new sense of self, and not as, just a survivor mentality, but a triumph kind of mentality, right?
Yeah.
Then anyone can, right? It's about mindset. So I imagine the work you do involves a lot of mindset work, challenging assumptions, like you said, very CBT, also EMDR. And I think a lot of people sometimes, even myself, because I'm not personally trained in EMDR, sometimes I just think of EMDR as like following the light,
Yeah. Yeah.
in the bar, right? So what people kind of know it for. We know it, the rapid eye movement helps with unlocking memories and so forth. But what do you think is one of the bigger misconceptions of EMDR and how it's being, and in the sense of how you're applying it to this work?
Well, I think, again, a lot of times when people hear about EMDR, it's specifically around post-traumatic stress disorder. So significant trauma. I mean, pretty horrible things that people have experienced, but it's the modality of it, like using bilateral stimulation to help access all parts of the brain to process an event is helpful. All of us as human beings, how our brains operate, our system operates is our bodies and minds ultimate basic job is to keep us safe and secure, right? And so anytime we encounter any experience that our system doesn't feel safe and secure, and we don't have a chance to process that in a safe and secure manner, it's going to hold on to it, to remember it, and be like, okay, I'm going to make sure to keep my person safe. Like, if anything reminds me of this, I will keep them safe. So so much of our conditioning is reacting out of past events. And EMDR, so the modality, EMDR, but also I would say this being self-aware and watching and noticing and paying attention to what's happening to slow that reaction down helps to move it through and find a more conscious, these old system or software, so to speak, keep running running our operating. So we can actually get a new operating system to run ourselves.
I love that analogy. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just from a human experience, being human, sometimes I think, our minds are very good at compartmentalizing our experiences and our relationships and how we show up in different contexts. And take it deeper and think about even repressed memories and trauma and how the brain protects us, like you said. And that's what PTSD is, right? It's our brain protecting us until it feels safe enough to start processing the trauma. And then that's when you see the symptoms creep
that's
up.
The thing. It's more than just in my person, again, you can do it at home with tapping, that sort of thing. But it's, to me, the process of being willing to go inward and notice and watch things is what is really profound to create change. So that goes beyond the therapy room. So
yes, absolutely. So all of it, and I think when you really touched on to the practicing at home, really encouraging the work, like we do with any homework, right? When we're talking about personal development, even if it's personal fitness, weight loss,
Yeah.
whatever it is, coaching is just a small percentage of teaching the skills and then having some kind of regimen to follow, right? Um, so when it comes to yoga, especially this type of yoga, how much time do you think is adequate in the beginning phases when somebody's getting into this kind of work? How much time are they looking at dedicating to this kind of self-improvement on a week-to-week basis?
Yeah. Well, so what I tell people is, I'm like, I don't want it to be something where it feels like, oh my gosh, I have to add one more thing in my already busy schedule. There's no way it's going to happen. So for a lot of people I work with, I'm like, how can we integrate these tools into something that you actually use in what you're already doing? So that's one main way of doing it is, okay, when can you, like just taking the breath, for example, when can you breathe? Or when can you take a moment to pause and be aware and notice what's happening right now for you? You don't need to necessarily, have something totally by itself practice, but integrating it into daily life. And then like a standalone practice, if someone's really busy, I'm like, can you give yourself 5 minutes? And you have 5 minutes in your day to just be with yourself. Like just take a moment to, whether it's breathing, I do things with kind of vibration sounds or even a guided meditation, or just pausing and noticing, like 5 minutes, doing that when you don't need it in a sense, right? Just kind of like in schools, we have kids practice like fire drills. We do that so that they know what to do when they need to get out of the building if there's a fire. You don't need them, but it's just as important to integrate them into daily meditation. Meditation can actually be a lifestyle practice, and it can be a standalone practice. And in yoga, it's traditional yoga, it says that you need both. Like you can have your standalone like meditation practice, whatever that is. But then if you get up and you're like yelling at people and reacting throughout your day, like then that's not changing anything, right? It might feel for a moment, but you also have to, okay, how am I going to bring this practice into my life? So yeah, those are two ways. So I would even just say, like, if you're living, you can practice, right? Practice in your daily life. And then even starting off with just 5 minutes.
Yeah, I think oftentimes we think about these whenever we're trying on a new skill or trying to learn something new, we feel like it has to be super rigid,
Yeah.
and I have to carve this out in my calendar and, lay out the mat and get the music out. And it becomes sometimes we overthink it, and then it becomes like a chore as opposed to something that's supposed to help relax, especially for somebody with anxiety. If I feel like that and I don't have that kind of anxiety, I can imagine somebody who does have anxiety, feeling like they have another have to kind of thing. And that's hard to sustain. But if you give yourself permission to just carve out 5 minutes a day and just bookend your day, or just find pockets of time, to just do what makes sense in your routine, these things can definitely go a long way. I'm back to my example of playing the guitar. You put in 10 minutes a day, you'd be surprised what you can do in 6 months, right?
Exactly. It's better to have little bits every day than like, well, if I don't have an hour, then why bother? Then I don't practice at all. So it's much more important to do the little bits add up, for sure. And again, this is changing definition. Even I feel like what we're conditioned to a lot of times in the West is, we got to be the best and we have to like show up and like go full force. And and everyone's exhausted from that mentality.
Yeah. So even finding 5 minutes sounds sometimes
it can.
I don't have 5 minutes.
Right. And if I do have someone say that, I'm like, well, a minute. Like, can you find 1 minute, 60 seconds in your day, to pause? And it really, I would say if someone is like, I don't know, that's a whole nother issue of like, okay, well then what's going on with that piece? What is keeping you from giving to yourself and making yourself even have 5 minutes priority for yourself? So, yeah.
Absolutely. Right. again, self-love, self-compassion, getting our priorities straight.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And that's it's a big part of yoga as well, is that self-love and self-compassion, that relationship with ourselves. So
yeah, we could all use some burnout prevention techniques.
yes.
Definitely.
Exactly.
Well, I could talk around this for hours with you because it's such a fascinating topic, and it's outside my wheelhouse and something I've wanted to get into. For those who want to get into yoga for the first time, right? What would you recommend?
Yeah.
Like, what would be a good starting point? Like a start here. Like
Right. Well, I would say, so we live in a day and age where there's so much accessibility, which is a gift in a lot of ways. I would say, and I would say it's meeting you where you're at. So for some people, going to like finding a yoga class somewhere where you're moving your body and you're using your body to slowly start to go inwards, become self-aware. I mean, that's very accessible at this point, and that's what most people think of yoga as. There's also, if that doesn't sound like your cup of tea, finding someone, you can go online very easily. There's lots of online classes now, YouTube. I mean, you just type in and there's so much out there. You can also start with breath work if that sounds like something, the pranayama aspect of it, or if you're wanting to learn more meditation. There's lots of ways to access yoga, right? Like
excellent.
Big cities, there's lots of ways to access that. And there's classes, there's so many teachers out there that are meeting people. So there's lots of ways to access it at this point. I know for myself, with my business, Samya Yoga Healing, I've got a YouTube channel that has some basic pranayama techniques, some guided meditation, even a couple of how I teach asana, the poses. So yeah, there's a lot of ways. And
yeah, that I think for me, that because I'm the kind of guy who likes to plan things out when I'm going to approach something new, I get that analysis paralysis, and I'm like, okay, so before I even dip my toe in this, new practice, I want to know, okay, what are the different types of yoga? Is there just one, or should I be looking for something specific, a specific kind of sub culture or practice within yoga, right? I mean, so I would want to know, like, okay, and then how many weeks and how much time, and who, I would overcomplicate it for sure.
Right.
But just to kind of to scratch that itch a little bit, is there a particular type of yoga somebody should be looking at for the kind of work that you do? Is there a certain category or umbrella it falls under, or would any yoga instructor, yogi work?
Yeah. So I would say, I put myself under more of the umbrella of traditional yoga rather than modern yoga. And so here's what I would throw out. I'm going to talk just about like even how to meet a mind state. If you're someone who has more of a high energy, right? You might want to try to find a class. Well, it's meeting yourself where you're at. I would say eventually finding a class that helps to slow you down. I would recommend that. There are things like more gentle yoga, like gentle yoga asana. So I'm going to talk about this asana, the poses. So we're talking about a regular yoga class you might go to. Things that are more restorative yoga, yin yoga that really uses moving with the breath. If you're someone that is more feeling depressed and kind of sluggish, a class that brings your energy up more would be something I would recommend. So those are things like more vinyasa yoga, power yoga, but just these yoga that practices that you're moving more than maybe pausing. And a great yoga class will actually even incorporate all of that together. Right. So,
Okay. Good.
yeah.
Good.
So that's something that would be something I would throw out to your listeners of
Oh, well, thank you for that.
That way. Yeah.
And I know you just drove past that pretty quick, but you said you have a YouTube channel with some training.
Yeah. So Samya Yoga Healing, SAMYA Yoga Healing on YouTube. And check that out. And I've got a lot of just basic breath techniques, as well as a lot of talks, teachings, some of the guided meditations, a few of the asana pose classes as well. And I just keep adding to it all the time, and it's free. Say it again.
So I know where I'm starting.
Yeah. So please feel free. Yeah. It's free.
Excellent.
So it's nice to explore and then kind of go from there. Yeah.
Wonderful. And if our audience would like to learn more about you, where might they start?
Yeah.
Other than your YouTube channel, do you have a website offer?
Yeah. So a couple of things. One is my website, which is Samya, SAMYA yogahealing.com. And then I have a free guide, which you can access on my website, as well as if you go to samyayogahealing.com /6, so 6 steps, STEPS. It's a guide all about wonderful.
Hey, this is your site, right?
There's my site. Yep.
Nice.
It's my free guide is 6 steps to emotional mastery. So using some of these things I've been talking about to become more and more more inward in your process, living from the inside out. So,
very nice website.
Thanks.
You have it very nicely organized. Online courses, workshops, free guides. Excellent.
Yeah. And I guess I should just throw this out even. I do this twice a year. If that aspect of traditional yoga, so thinking about Raja Yoga, the Yoga Sutras, twice a year. So the next one will be in this fall. I do a 8-week study course on what's called the yamas and niyamas, which are the ethical principles of yoga. And that'll be starting sometime in October. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think it's incredible that you were able to create a practice out of a passion, something you love that really serves this, specific niche of clients, of other humans who want to dive deeper than maybe traditional talk therapy in a way that's more humanistic, it seems.
Yeah.
So,
I feel very blessed to be where
fantastic.
I'm at. So
I know we're, landing the plane and all, but I'm just curious, is this a practice that you had envisioned for some years before that's a lot. I don't think people really can appreciate or understand unless they are like an entrepreneur about everything that goes into starting a business, a practice, not just even a traditional therapy practice, but then you take on online courses and workshops and all that you're doing. That's a lot. Like, is this something like you did brick by brick, like as you went, or was this you had it all mapped out and knew what you were doing? That's a lot.
Yeah, definitely not mapped out. It's been just something that, it's a journey that's continuing to happen. And I guess what's leading it or guiding it is I want to be able to help as many people as possible. So just keep trying to find ways that I can serve people, the more people than just maybe in an individual session, because I'm human. I only have a limited amount of time. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Now your one-on-one work, is that done strictly online, or do you have a brick and mortar over there in Colorado?
Yeah, my office is in my house, and I actually see more people in session now at this point, in person rather than online.
Nice. Home studio.
Yeah, which is also great as well. But it's wonderful to have that option. I think that's actually a positive thing that's come out of the pandemic, especially because I live in rural Colorado and access is a lot harder. And you know, when people aren't able to drive to where I'm at, like, we can be online and it works well. So
excellent. And you can see people out of state because it's not. Is it strictly tied to your license, or is it a separate
for
kind of
individual therapy? It's at this point I'm pretty much in Colorado, but my workshops, my retreats, online courses, anyone can access that.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay, because people who don't understand necessarily how therapy licenses work wouldn't understand my question. But if you have a therapy license, you're oftentimes anchored to your state that you're licensed if you're operating under that therapy license. But as a business, under the umbrella of what you're doing, you have all of these other offerings as well for people in California like me. So,
right. Exactly. Yeah. Wonderful.
Awesome.
Exactly.
And do you have an Instagram?
I do. Yep. It's at Samya Yoga Healing. And I'm also on Facebook too. Samya Yoga Healing.
Great. I will definitely be linking up to all of that in the show notes, the blog description, so people know where to find you. Okay.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you so much for being on and making time and sharing all of this. Like I said, I could just keep going for hours, but I know only so much time. So,
I know.
Would it be okay if I had you back on down the road?
I would love that. Definitely.
Maybe after I learn a thing or two about yoga.
Yeah, definitely. I would be honored to.
Thank you so much. And you enjoy your day. And feel free to reach out, and I'll be sure to send people your direction.
Right. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too. Namaste.
Namaste.
That means the good in me sees the good in you, right?
Yes.
Namaste.
It does.
Okay.
Yep.
See, I know a little something.
Yeah.
Okay, Twyla. Thank you. I appreciate you being on.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye. Well, there you have it. Another tool to help you thrive. Hey, if you're getting value from this content and you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe to the MHT YouTube channel and/or podcast so you don't miss out on any new content as it's released and help support mental health awareness. If you would like to see more interviews, feel free to click on the card if you're watching this on YouTube for the playlist there, or you can look in the description below for the link to my full playlist on interviews. All right? Until next time, keep thriving. Bye-bye.